Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I feel really privileged to be here today, and I feel as well under pressure to talk after all these scholars in the field. My name is Faten Sabouni, and I'm Syrian. I'm a qualified counseling psychologist from the UK, and today I'm going to present some findings of my doctoral research paper, which I looked at Syrian community service providers' account of mental health needs of Syrian refugees in the UK. The aims and objectives of this short presentation is to let you know, or to know what we know about Syrian refugees in the UK. Why did I choose my participants to be service providers, and what I understand or what I explored that Syrian refugees' mental health needs in the UK, the huge stigma and lack of culturally sensitive services, and then I will add some recommendation for how to best respond to the needs of Syrian refugees in the UK. What we know about Syrian refugees in the UK, we've got like an umbrella of people who came to the UK from two different ways. So Syrian refugees in the UK sought asylum in various ways, including smugglings and paying a huge amount of money to smugglers to arrive through the sea. And other refugees spend years and years, or a huge amount of time in overcrowded refugee camps where they can submit applications to enter European countries and wait to be proceed. In September 2015, the UK government announced the Vulnerable Person Relocation Scheme, where they agreed to bring 4,000 people from refugee camps, and they agreed to finish this scheme by 2020. Priority will be given to refugees who are affected by the war, who are physically in need, for children and elderly people, women who are vulnerable, people who has been sexually abused and tortured. More than 50 local authorities came forward and agreed to take share in looking after these Syrian refugees. As of March 2017, around 7,300 Syrians have been resettled in different UK cities through the Vulnerable Scheme. In addition to these 7,300 people, there is hundreds of Syrian refugees who arrived to the UK through illegal routes. So we're talking about probably about 10,000 Syrian refugees are in the UK, or probably more. And it has been presumed that as natural consequences of forced displacement, that most of these refugees will be suffering from some sort of physical or mental disturbance. So in this, I looked at what are the consequences of displacement and how displacement will affect Syrian or refugees' mental health. And lots of research, a vast amount of research, showed that many types of stressors will be associated with forced displacement, such as loss of identity, loss of role, economic hardship, disorientation, feeling insecure, and social insecurity. And given the growing number of displaced Syrian refugees in the UK, according to the Royal School of Medicine in London in 2015, they stressed the great need to establish culturally sensitive psychological service to provide mental health support. Now, many Syrian community teams formed to offer support and meet the needs of Syrian refugees. So they are local community service providers. They just form people who has been in the UK for a long time, for over 20, 30 years. They felt responsible to take share and to help these Syrian refugees. So they just formed a charitable or voluntary community services, and they start offering help to these Syrian refugees. And that's where I was interested to start interviewing these service providers. So why I choose service providers? Because I believe that they're playing a vital role in providing immediate help and support to the newly arrived Syrian refugees. They are the first point of contact. Like, as a foreign, you're coming to a foreign country, you don't know the culture, the language. First thing you go to see where's your Syrian community in this city. They serve the most vulnerable and disadvantaged refugees who just relocated in the new community, and they impact massively on their quality of life and social integration. These services providers could potentially promote active involvement in the British society and engage Syrian refugees in various activities to enhance their integration. So for these reasons, it is important to recognize and acknowledge the values and the role of these service providers, what they know about Syrian refugees' mental health needs, and how they are helping them. So I divided my research questions into four different areas. What we know, or what are the perceptions of the community service providers of Syrian refugees' mental health needs, what methods they are using to effectively promote the psychological well-being, what are their perceptions of the factors that promote or hinder mental health needs, and what is your account of Syrian refugees' psychological well-being? So I come up with six main themes, main findings, and I'm going to go through them in a little bit more details. So first question, what affects Syrian refugees' mental health needs in the UK? And community service providers said that there's three main factors. So pre-displacement factors, displacement, and post-displacement factors. People who came to the UK, if they were educated, they are struggling more in the UK because they cannot work in their qualification. They have to go through converging their degree and find a job. Usually they will be underemployed and they will struggle to find a well-respected job. People who came without their families, so people who didn't come through the vulnerable scheme, they usually separated from their families and they have to wait for long period of time to get relocated with their families, and economic hardship. There is a huge stigma of seeking psychological support and help, and that's coming from their pre-displacement stage, and the type and severity of exposure to trauma. So it depends on whether these refugees have been exposed to trauma in the past, where they were in Syria, or they not been exposed to trauma. There is displacement challenges as well. So trajectory to the UK, how did they arrive to the UK, whether they came safely in the airplane, or they have to wait months on their boards until they smuggled and came to the UK. Loss of network, people came as a whole family and people came separate and waiting to be relocated with their families, as well as future uncertainty. So people who came with some sort of sum of money so they can start a business straight away, or people who are qualified as a carpenter, or so they can straight away enroll and find a job. People who are struggling to find a job if they've got so people who didn't get the qualification ready to enroll straight away in jobs. The post-displacement challenges include cultural adjustment. So all these refugees are facing the new culture, the new weather in the UK, the language barrier, limited awareness of what's available to them, and these essential for them to enroll or to engage in the community. They're facing a huge uncertainty whether they're going to get the status of refugee, whether they're going to be reunited with their families. They're living in unstable contexts, so they're going through stages of their refugee stages, and they can be dispersed into different cities. There is a huge disturbance of role, loss of gender role, where the man and the woman, both of them are earning money now from the job center, so the male is not anymore in charge, and there is loss of identity. Am I a Syrian? Am I a refugee? And there's a huge stigma with being both of them. Changes in family structure, so the children are as well rebelling against the parents. So there is a huge disturbance of role within the family. And again, stigmatization. I am Syrian and I am a refugee, and that's the stigmatization is due to the media, and whatever is happening is like, if I'm a refugee, that means I'm not really an active person in the community, and with the stigma associated with being a Syrian. Another main theme, enhancing Syrian refugees' psychological well-being. There is like the perception of these community service providers saying that Syrian refugees got a huge resilience, and they've got really good coping strategies. And I felt really, really proud to be Syrian within the UK, because like probably 90% or probably more of Syrian refugees are really showing good integration, and they coping really well. They are really holding well into their religion and faith. They always use existential meaning making, where I am safe here, so I shouldn't be complaining about anything. I am okay here. However, there is some negative coping strategies, such as alcohol misuse or domestic abuse. When I ask service providers about what do we offer and what do we need, service providers are doing amazing job, where they're offering the social support, so they're offering social gathering, they're offering the basic needs to these refugees. However, they really lack, very ill-equipped to offer any mental health support. They're not aware of how they can help these refugees. They come across a lot of cases where they felt that the person needs support, but they don't have where to direct him or what to offer him. So what are the complexity of contextually relevant mental health services? We don't have in the UK language competency, so there is very limited therapists who can speak Arabic. Using interpreter could be quite complicated. The approach to therapy, we are using Western models of therapy, and most therapists are not culturally sensitive or awareness of our Syrian needs. Just to sum it up, so what is the barriers to mental health care? Because we've got distrust of authority and power, so we need to engage these community within the government services. We need linguistic and cultural barriers. We have to partnership with providers and cultural experts. Stigma of mental health services, embedding services in local services such as GPs and schools, and primacy of settlement, stressor integration of concentrate services. And to sum it up, I will go back to Maslow pyramids of needs. Unfortunately, we are still on the bottom two needs. We are trying to offer the Syrian refugees in the UK the physiological and safety needs. We haven't get into offering them any psychological needs within the community service providers. So that's what we need to start looking at, and helping these community service providers to offer the much needed psychological need. So what we can do, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And thank you.